talk about today's experience with FurrowVision.
In CAD, Tony, we'll produce is we call it a depth metric and a residue metric. So when we say depth, we're going to measure, the true V trench that gets created. Steve and I have referred it to as a furrow a couple times here. The true V trench, we're going to be able to measure from the bottom of the trench to what we call the shoulder, and that gives us the depth of the seed, how deep I'm placing the seed as I'm going across the field and planting every acre in my operation. That gets reported on each of the 3 rows. So you'll get 3 depth metrics, one for each of the 3 rows. And then we create an average. So for simplicity, if we just want to be able to see the average depth across the planter, across those 3 rows, there's one number that's then provided, but you can see the individual rows for the 3 that we have on the planter. And then residue gets reported as a % of residue in the furrow. So we kind of create, much like you might see on a grain quality camera for those that are familiar with our combines, you get these kind of highlights in purple as we're trying to highlight certain attributes of the grain as it's passing through the camera. With FurrowVision, we do that same thing, but we're highlighting the residue. So we're highlighting in purple, being able to clearly, demark where the residue is in the furrow. And that's used to then basically calculate the % of residue in the furrow. Again, getting a number for each of the 3 rows and then an average across the planter. And then we have a couple other really cool things. So we have what we call dirty lens detection. So one of the questions we always get asked as people hear about this product is, doesn't this thing get dirty? We're in the dirt, we're planting, right? And so actually, it's an interesting answer to start before I go to what that dirty lens detection is. I'm wearing glasses. The audience can't see me, but I wear glasses, right? And when I have little specks on my glasses, it actually doesn't impact my vision at all, right? I almost like see right through them. Describe the kind of that first part of, isn't FurrowVision affected by dirt on the lens? The answer is sort of. So like when I look through my glasses, I don't see that dust or that dirt or those smudges on my glasses. FurrowVision works in much the same way. It's able to kind of go through that and is not impacted by it. But certainly, if we go across a low spot in a field that's wet and there's a bunch of mud and it coats the camera and the lens, that's going to impact the ability of the system to see. So we're able to actually automatically detect that and alert the operator to a condition that they might need to stop and kind of wipe that lens off to get their readings and their metrics back. And then the fourth thing, this might be one of the highlights that we've heard from customers as we've run it with customers probably the last 3 years doing some testing and some piloting of the product. We've actually covered about 250,000 acres in those 3 years. So it's a really impressive number that this product has been tested on already. But it's a real-time video feed in the cab. You're actually being able to see any of those three rows, pull up a video and actually watch the furrows forming in real time and being able to kind of see how the furrows being formed and structured based on how you have your row cleaners set, how you have your downforce set, and all the things that are going to impact the quality of your furrow. The last piece, so you asked for the in-cab experience. The other piece of this is all those metrics are being off-boarded, we call it, and showing up in Op Center. So you can review this data after the fact, after you're planting or after the season, to kind of go and do some correlation between what kind of depth did I achieve? Did I have more variability in my depth? Did that impact my yield at the end of the season? And kind of do some of these correlations. Is the system doing anything? And I think we'll get there a little bit later, but the first version of FurrowVision is really a detection system, a sensing system that we want to kind of create a foundation to be able to start to build some automation off of. But in this first iteration, we want to surround the operator with insights and information to be able to more intelligently adjust the planter on the go. So we said the state of the art, at least for understanding how my furrow is and the depth of my furrow, is to stop and dig. We're trying to change that state of the art to be able to keep our operators in the cab, make these adjustments on the fly, and this powerful information they'll have access to will help them do that.